Hey everyone, welcome to Nerds Talk. I'm Mike.
And I'm Chris.
And today we are doing another review of The Mandalorian Season 2. We are on Episode 3, which is titled Chapter 11, The Heiress. Now, before we go into the specifics of the episode, for those who are new to the channel, we don't jump into spoilers just yet. We'll give you a quick overview of what we thought of the episode as a whole, and then we'll jump into spoiler as we kind of walk through the episode detail by detail. For those who are new to the channel, here at Nerds Talk, we like to create a community that's great for family. If you'd like to support us, you can click that subscribe button. It's free of charge. You can like the video and drop a comment below. So with that, let's jump right into it. So, Chapter 11, The Heiress. What did you think of this new episode?
So I loved it. I know there's going to be kind of divided by two fans. Those that have, a bit more in-depth knowledge of all Star Wars shows and so on, not just the movies. And then, those that are kind of casual, just know the movie and stuff like that. So for me, who's watch all the shows, all the movies, as much content as I can get on Star Wars, I was very excited by this episode. A lot of little characters being reintroduced and things like that. And some were animated, some are real life now. So it's interesting to see how great that is and what actresses and actors they use for those roles. So very excited. Love the episode. It's starting to move the story and progressing. And I like that it stayed focused on Din Djarin and the Mandalorian's quest for the child, but also can expand it a little bit and bring them together that way. So I'm very excited that way. But they didn't go totally off course with it, which is nice.
So definitely not a filler episode. Definitely a more on beat, true to the story. We get to learn more about Din Djarin, and we get to learn more about not so much the child, but definitely a step in the right direction. So I think that's really awesome. I completely agree. I thought it was really exciting. A lot of wow moments. Didn't expect this to happen in this particular episode. Again, a lot of throwbacks, a lot of callbacks to the animated shows and other movies and such. So I thought that was really, really great. Again, for them always throwing that little cookie crumbs, throughout the episodes. That's awesome.
And Favreau is really, and Filoni are known for doing that kind of thing, throwing back old vintage toys or something that they saw in an episode and bringing it back to kind of just bring something back that's already been in a movie and relate it to the show. To make it more Star Wars.
I completely agree. Yeah. So let's jump right into the spoiler-filled topic, and we'll kind of run through. So we kind of open up where he's kind of hobbling through space as he's trying to approach the planet. He has to land manually, obviously, because some of the landing gear, the computer, I think, is broken, right? The Navi computer.
Yeah.
So he talks to the passenger and basically says if we don't burn up on reentry, we'll see what we can do. So he basically almost shuts off the ship.
Yeah.
So he just free falls.
Save enough power for the final, kicking the engine to reverse it a bit.
Oh man, that was so awesome! Just the coming in, catching on fire, the panic. As they're kind of going through, and I thought that was just really, really cool. And again, just showing the skill and ability of the Mandalorian, not just in fighting, but with the ship, just all around. He's just a great character.
Yeah.
So as he's coming through the atmosphere, the ship catches on fire, and he quickly turns on the ship, throws on reverse thrusters, and he thinks he's about to land. He misses the landing pad and lands right in the water.
Yeah, the one engine kind of explodes and kind of shoots him over, fails and shoots him over into the water. So I thought that was interesting. Awesome. But I love what they used to pick him out of the water.
The crane.
Yeah.
With an AT-AT body.
Yes, right. So I guess after the war, they started remanufacturing and using these AT-ATs for other reasons, and one is fishing stuff out of water or moving large objects like a crane.
Right. So that was really cool. A nice throwback. We had him on calamari waiting for them, and coming out of the dock shaking his head. Admiral Akbar's species. The passenger kind of comes up and is looking around and calling out for her husband, and then he finds him, and so they all reunite. And then he points the Mandalorian in the direction because he's asking him. Now, I thought this specific part was a little odd because he asked him some questions. And while he does point and gesture, he almost, the Mandalorian responds to him because he says something in his language. And Mandalorian responds to him. So I was kind of okay, you don't really understand their speech. They don't understand their language. But I guess the mime was supposed to help with that. But I thought it was pretty funny. So he pretty much asked them where they're more like him. And he responds, and he's like, "Oh, okay, in that direction or whatever." And
by the inn or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, so he takes off in the direction of where there are more Mandalorians supposed to be. He goes inside. The innkeeper says others with Beskar have come through the inn. So he's there, and of course there are a bunch of Quarren, the squid-like people who are generally pretty ruthless in the Clone Wars. And
Yeah,
such,
they always
right?
tend to go with the Empire and the dark side of
Yeah,
separatists,
and they've always
like
fought against the Mon Calamari on their planet, right? So,
correct.
So he comes out and he tells them that he can bring them to, he can bring the child and Mandalorian to the people wearing Beskar, but it's about an hour sail away. It'll cost them money, right?
Yeah.
So he says, okay, let's go. He knocks on the door and he basically leaves the child with, sorry, no, not yet. That's after. Sorry. So they go on the boat with a child.
Oh yes,
they're heading out to sea, and so the child's very excited about seeing this new planet, and so they're kind of looking over, and one of the guys comes up and starts speaking to Din Djarin and saying like, "Oh, have you ever seen us feed one of these creatures or something like that?" And so says, "Oh, bring the child; he'll be very interested to watch this." Yeah. So they kind of come over the middle of a ship. They open up this cage and they have this fish above, and so they drop it and we see bubbling, and then the Quarren knocks baby Abby in. I freaked out. I was like, no! Knocks him right into the middle of the water, and basically as the creature comes up, and the child and his whole like prem and everything just go right into the mouth of the creature and get swallowed and brought down underwater. Yeah. So Din Djarin just jumps right in, yeah. And so they close the cage so that he's locked in there with the beast, hoping that they'll both die. And so while he's at the surface, they're like trying to prod him and attack him, and so So again, the child's underwater. He's trying to survive, trying to figure out what to do. And then he hears some shots, and who comes flying in? Some Mandalorians, and it's none other than Bo-Katan.
Bo-Katan, yep, and her clan. Man. Oh, it was so good. Like the she looks identical to how she does in the Clone
helmet,
Wars.
The little owl insignia, like everything just looked phenomenal. I was like, wow, this looks like I'm watching Clone Wars, but it's real. Like they just got the detail of the helmet, the suit, the body type of the actress, it just looked spot on.
So I believe, I'm 99% sure that I read that the actress that plays her is the actress that voiced her in Clone Wars.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So to have her look, like they must have based the character off of her because she looks so identical.
Which makes sense. Well, that's what they usually do. With the animated characters, you look at a lot of the characters through the voices, they have their
characteristics.
They're brought to life in the character. And so when you look at someone like Ahsoka, you can see Ashley Eckstein in the character, and it's so unfortunate that she's not playing the Ahsoka. I was like, why not? It's makeup. Why can't you? I don't know if she wasn't tall enough or physical. I don't know what the issue is, but she had the right body type, in my opinion. She was thin and scrawny, just like Ahsoka. She has the right voice for it. It would have made sense to me to just. I don't see her turning it down, but they decided to go with Rosario Dawson, which is fine. Yeah, I think she's a great actress. We'll see how when she speaks, if I'm going to get used to the new voice. We'll have to wait and see how they do it. But yeah, Bo-Katan, spot on.
Oh, it's so good, and even some of the owl insignia were on the other Mandalorian. Mm-hmm. So it brought everything together, and we'll go to it later. But just the whole sequence between Din Djarin and Bo-Katan and her crew is just so cool, and we kind of predicted how this might turn out, where the Mandalorians are a bit different. So
yes,
we'll continue on.
Yeah, so Bo-Katan arrives with a couple others. They fight and kill most of the guys. They open up the cage. They pull him out, and he's like, "Oh, the child, whatever."
But you see how she, like the way that they put her to reach out her hand. It was like him being found as a foundling with the other Mandalorian.
I didn't catch on to that.
So it kind of looked like the same way when they opened the door. The Mandalorian that saved him as a foundling took him.
I didn't catch on to that.
At least myself, I kind of was like, it's kind of mirroring the way that he's found again by a Mandalorian and saved
by Mandalorian
and kind of being brought into their clan again and saved. But yeah, so that was the semblance that I kind of got from it.
Yeah, so they save him, and then he says, "Save the child," and they say, "Don't worry, brother." And then they go and they save it. I can't remember. This is where it's a blur. Did they kill the beast, or did they just dive down and pull it? I can't remember.
One dove in, and then you kind of look in. You see like blasters, kind of blast fire,
and then they come up.
And then she shoots up with the jetpack and brings the child out.
So awesome.
Yeah,
so awesome. Yeah. So they save it. So they're all there. They're talking to Din Djarin, and then they take off their helmets. And Din Djarin immediately asks, where do they get your armor? Like, you're not true Mandalorians.
Just like the Boba Fett armor.
And she tells them that
she was born on Mandalore.
Yeah, so she is like of the clan. They are true Mandalorians, all this stuff. And then she tells him that he is one of these, a member of the Watch, a group of zealots who look away from the Mandalorian society. Their goal is to reestablish the ancient way. So she said very specifically the ancient way. So there was this old groups of Mandalorian the Great and how they lived. And so that's why, again, this group of zealots, these underground crew who are not necessarily, like, they're not true-blooded Mandalorians. They're just like, they want to bring back the old way. This is where they believe is the true way of being a Mandalorian, not people who are born and raised, who are blood and are part of this. So she's trying to show them, like, this is, like, you're part of this Watch. Like, that's who you are. That's what they are. They're not just true Mandalorians.
Is it not the Night Watch?
That's what I thought. So I was going to ask you about that.
I'm pretty sure it's part of the Night Watch.
Which is Darth Maul's crew, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I was going to say, I'm like, that was like, oh, that makes sense, because then now I was going to bring that back up. The armor bearer, her mask had horns, and I was like, for a second, I was like, that kind of reminded me of Maul, but I was like, God, that's just coincidence. But now it makes sense.
Well, so yeah. So
because didn't more of them have horn on their helmets? Yeah, they did, right?
Even Garth Saxon had horns on his helmet once he joined with Maul. So I think it was a common theme for their commanders and so on to have horns similar to Maul's face, to resemble that they're part of his crew.
That's so awesome. And they didn't call themselves the Night Watch; they just called themselves the Mandalorians.
That's it.
But she's like, no.
He was brought in as a child, so he knows.
He knows nothing, different. And so she's telling them, like, you're part of this group. They're not the true Mandalorians. Like, we are. It's okay to take off your helmet. Like, we are, like, blood and born and raised, and this is what we are. And you were unfortunately brought in. This is what their group's about, and kind of like, now it's your choice. And the cool part is they don't turn their back on him. In fact, they talk to him, and he basically takes off.
Yeah, he says.
Din says that there is only one way, the way of the Mandalore, and he flies away like, no, you guys are wrong. I can't believe this. And so he starts to get a little bit of information about his story, or we do as the audience. And I thought that was really cool, setting up like, oh yeah, we're not just on this trek for the child, but we're also getting more information about the Mandalorians and what's happening in the sect of these people. And clearly the true Mandalorians are all wiped out, but there are those two factions which were brought up in the Clone Wars, and at the end of the Clone Wars there's still two factions.
They're kind of divided, and one has one way of thinking, and another has their own way, so they're definitely divided. But I thought it was so cool, and I don't know if you picked up on it, but every time they took off their helmet, it kind of had that sound like when Darth Vader's helmet kind of like that compression kind of sound,
which is really awesome. Really cool. They just got everything to a T. I thought that was really cool. But he flies away, so they have, according to the Quarren, are on an hour sail. So they're out to sea now. They could have been gone for 10 minutes. Could have been. We don't know how far out to sea they were, but they were clearly, when you looked around, they were in the middle of the ocean, and he jetpacks all the way back to a dock, like.
Yeah, he kind
of. That's a lot of.
They show him kind of looking, and then they fly away and explode the ship. So I'm not sure how.
Correct,
far.
but he lands on a dock. Like, we know that he makes it to a dock, so he arrives.
Yeah, they must not have been so far.
They must have
tried to do it quickly before.
So he ends up at a dock where there are a bunch of Quarren who ambush him, claiming he has killed his brother.
Yeah.
So he's like, okay, I'm gonna have to take these guys on, and then of course Bo-Katan and her two soldiers arrives and says that he didn't kill your brother, I did, and takes them out, and they just rip them to shreds. And he sees them and is like, oh, these guys are like warriors. They are here. They're here to back me up. They care about me. Like, I literally just abandoned them, and they came back to fight for me.
They still have his back as a brother. Yeah.
As opposed to, and this is where I got like the prisoner scene. I got a flashback of like, oh yeah, they're all in the doorways shooting and hiding, and they're like, oh, where did he go? He comes out, he does all the destroying, and then they just let
sit
him
there and watch.
Yeah, let him do it. Let him do all the work. Yeah. And then he comes and now in a similar situation, and they're all doing their part. They're all cleaning up the mess, and it's like they're a team, and not so much just like he's just a part of a group, but not really like they're not like a brotherhood.
And they're still
or a clan.
trying to get him to understand, because after that they offer, can we buy you a drink at least? And they want to sit down. And that's right. Where they go into the bar next, and all of them but Din Djarin have their helmet off, but they're speaking about what their plan is and where they've been. And they even talk about Mandalore, and Din Djarin says, oh, it's like curse and bad things have happened on Mandalore. And Bo-Katan is like, don't believe everything you've heard. Like, it's not what it used to be.
Exactly.
Yeah,
which I thought was
the
really
Empire,
cool.
If the Empire can't control it, then they make sure no one can control it, kind of thing. So they're talking about Mandalore and how maybe misinformed he was, because he was taught one way but has never actually seen Mandalore. So I thought that was really cool that they're trying to educate him and still be, bring him in, and still, they know he's still a Mandalorian at heart. So they want to kind of open him up and know what it really is like.
He wasn't born, but he's part of the clan, and they want to welcome him.
That's right. Right? He's accepted it.
So basically, yeah. So they fight the people, and then they're asking him so Bo-Katan and them, they sit down, and they're asking him, like, what does he know about the Jedi? And he says nothing. Yeah. And Bo-Katan says that she can lead him to one of their kind, but she needs him for a mission first. And so, like, basically, we saved you twice. Like, you can join us for a mission. Yeah,
we can use your skills, pretty much. A fourth always helps.
Absolutely. So after planning out the mission, which is really cool on their ship, and they're figuring out what they're going to do and stuff like that, he leaves with the child. He lives the child with the lizard couple to watch them, and so they've like officially hatched a little tadpole, whatever.
Well, not yet.
Oh, it's not yet.
Yeah, no. So he drops him off and says, you're being a guest. I want you to be on your best behavior, and you know what I'm talking about, kind of thing, because he's looking at the eggs.
Yes, and he's like staring at the eggs.
Yeah, but one didn't hatch. Yeah, so he does go up to the glass jar, and one hatches as he's looking at. Yeah,
that's right. So then that happens, and then okay, and so then they board an Empire cargo ship and take out the stormtroopers like they're nothing.
Yeah, so they wait till it takes off because they do a scan for life forms before, but once they get up, they have to wait until they get out of the harbor, I believe, before they can kind of ascend up. That's right. So that's their time to kind of fly in. You see the ship taking off, and then the four of them flying on top, and then landing. Like, the graphics and scenes are just amazing.
And just fighting them. Like, these are crisp, clean stormtroopers. Like, literally, this is a faction of the Empire, or the splintered Empire, the remnants of them. And so they just destroy them, take them out, which is awesome. So they're fighting their way to the ship. You see them use a smoke grenade and use a thermovision to take the guys out. Like, just cool tools, tricks of the trade.
Like, it so reminded me of Predator with that thermovision. Like, just the way that it showed it. I'm like, oh, this is a throwback a little bit, but not obviously the same series or anything. But I was like, oh yeah, some similarities that way, graphic wise. But as you were talking about the prisoner, that's where I saw a reminder of the prisoner, because they're shielding the four of them, but this time they're all kind of moving, cover each other, crisscross, and then next take out all the stormtroopers and using their gadgets, which was fantastic.
That's right. So we see a leader. I'm going to call him an admiral. I don't know if it was admiral in general, but basically he was the leader of that particular crew, I guess, on the ship. And so he's there with the two pilots, and I guess another lower ranking officer. And so the officer takes like a group and are waiting behind a door for the Mandalorians to arrive. And so when the door opens, again, the Mandalorians take out most of the platoon. The leader tells the remaining stormtroopers, because he kind of backs away like, oh, we're going to die. Tells them to seal them in. And the admiral kind of pages in and finds out like what's going on. And they're like, oh, we've sealed them in. He's like, where are they? And he's like, oh, they're in the cargo hold. He's like, that's where we don't want them to be. Yeah. So he basically opens up a door and sucks out the lower ranking officer and the remaining stormtroopers as like a punishment for what they did.
Now, was it he, or I think the Mandalorians cracked in?
Was it them? I thought it was the admiral that kind of did it.
I had the feeling where he's like, no, wait, where are they? And then all of a sudden, and they open the door. He's like, you shouldn't have. It was like, no, you shouldn't be in there, kind of thing. You're trapped. Okay. You didn't trap them. They kind of trapped you, kind of thing. But I could be wrong.
Okay, so either way, they're gone, and the Mandalorians are in the cargo ship, and so they're looking for stuff, going through weapons, and of course, Bo-Katan's not finding what she's looking for. So she is.
Well, they radioed down because they're like, "Can you come in?" After they open up, like after that lower animal gets sucked out.
Correct.
They're trying to call on him, and she picks up the communicator and speaks and says, oh, I hope, get tea ready. I'm coming up to see you guys. We're going to take over the whole ship.
They says they're taking the entire ship.
Yeah.
Like that's the plan. Yeah. So Mando gets upset. He's like, we already came what we wanted for. And he says, you're altering the terms of the deal. And I just got a flashback to like the Darth Vader and Lando. It's like, you're changing the terms of the deal. And he's like, pray I don't alter it further. I thought that was hilarious. Like that whole confrontation. And then I love how she throws this is the way. And he's like, darn it, I gotta do this.
Yeah,
like
this
she's clearly a true Mandalorian.
Yeah.
She's saying what we need to do. I can't disobey this. She's like, I gotta follow it. Especially as someone who's born into it, and she's like, live and breathe it. She's gonna know more than he does. So it's like, okay, I guess I'm going along with this.
But I love that we kind of pick up what she's looking for as they go, because in the Clone Wars she possessed what she's looking for.
That is correct. So they get to Okay, so Moff Gideon hails the ship, and when he finds out that they have taken most of the ship, he tells the Admiral there is no point in sending reinforcements.
Yeah, because he was asking, we need reinforcements right away.
That's right. And the Admiral, and he's also already like ascending when they were on the ship, right, to try to get out to orbit or whatever. So anyway, so they're ascending, and so Moff Gideon basically says like, "There's no point. You know what to do. Like in this case, like the ship is already lost, and so." The pilots are kind of like confused, like what are we supposed to do? And so the Admiral knows, and of course we as the audience are like, oh, he's gonna have to like kamikaze himself. His job is to kill these guys.
Sure everyone and nothing.
My life is worthless. It's more important I take out these guys. So he basically goes and kills the 2 pilots.
That's right.
Sits down and decides to just completely nosedive. Down and try to crash the ship.
Before he ended the call, did he say long for the Empire or long live the Empire or something like that?
Yes.
I think he said something.
He says long live the Empire, and the Admiral tries long live the Empire.
He takes out the pilots and tries to just kamikaze.
That's it.
And take everyone out so that it's worth.
So he's doing the nosedive, and so Bo-Katan is asking them. So they break in, they grab him, whatever. Bo-Katan has like a gun or a knife, or I can't remember, to his throat, and then the other 2 are in Din Djarin, and the other guys are trying to fix the ship.
Before that, because when he starts to nosedive, they're still pinned a bit, and the stormtroopers are shooting down the hallway. And Din Djarin takes the 2 detonators, takes a bunch, like starts to run down the hall with the 2 detonators, and is taking blast shots off of his Beskar armor. Yeah, and then kind of like falls, throws his thing. That's right. And takes it out. So he kind of he was seeing them all pinned down and just like saying, okay,
here's my chance to shine.
This is how I'm going to be a part of the team and how I'm going to help them out. And that was my feeling of, he's like, okay, these guys are kind of real, and they're real Mandalorians, so let's join they have my back, and we're going to take their back.
That's right.
And so he kind of did that, and that kind of showed that he's willing to sacrifice for them and help them out as well. At least what I thought of it.
No, absolutely. And so they make their way, and they get to the bridge, the cockpit, whatever you want to call it. And so Bo-Katan has the Admiral or General, whatever, at gunpoint, I guess. And then we have the other 2 trying to get
pull
the ship
up on the levers.
That's right. And so she's asking him, where's the Darksaber? Does he have it? So we're like, okay, she's coming back for it, because we know in the Clone Wars that she was left with it from Sabine. Sabine gave it to her as a leader.
And now she controlled all Mandalore.
Correct. And then she lost it. And we know that there was this great purge where the Empire attacked them, and clearly Moff Gideon got it. So there was a fight, a war, where Moff Gideon definitely came down, knocked, I guess, Bo-Katan out, and was able to get it from her, and maybe she was presumed dead. Yeah. And so the remnants of these people, her and some of this, I don't know how many people are still alive, obviously are coming back for it. So we don't know how many there are left, which could be another reason why they're trying to recruit him and any other Mandalorians to like their cause and be like, we need to stick together, right?
And I think this will allow for them to explain that gap of how she had it to how she lost it. So hopefully we can get some backstory and see some flashbacks.
Oh, I think we definitely will.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that storyline as well, because I've always wanted to know how, Bo-Katan lost it, essentially.
And this is the first time we've seen Moff Gideon show up in the season yet. And so it's like they're still connected. They're still putting the pieces, and we're all going to get together. So while the goal is about the child's journey for this season, we are still giving the fans what they want and getting more of the backstory of Mandalorian and the Darksaber and what's going on there. Yeah. And again, dropping breadcrumbs so they can spin off season 3 in so many different ways, or spin off shows. We'll have to kind of see what happens.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So the Admiral's talking to her, and he's like, okay, just do it. She's like, oh,
I'll leave you alive. I'll keep you alive if you tell me. And then his response is, you may, but he won't.
Correct. You may let me live, but he won't. Yeah. And he kills himself with like some electrical.
Yeah. He pretty much bites down on a fake tooth and kills himself. Yeah.
And he's done. He's gone. So, so they managed to avoid crashing the ship. So they survive. And so Din Djarin is speaking to Bo-Katan, and she talks to him and says, where you want to go is you need to go to find this Jedi. You need to go to the city of Caladan on the forest planet of Corvus. You will find Ahsoka Tano.
They named her finally, so we know that she's in
this season. Yeah. And I thought it was interesting. Now, I didn't mention this in the very beginning of the episode when he docked. There was a mysterious creature we saw in the trailer in a black kind of robe.
That's right.
Who was like watching them, and then when he kind of like people walked by, disappeared. So I thought this is a dark side character, fallen Jedi, Sith, something weird going on with this person.
Was that not her right-hand girl, Bo-Katan?
I wasn't sure.
I thought it was, because she looked very familiar, just not in her.
I'm gonna watch it again and double check because my thoughts on what this person did is coming up, so we'll double check that. But anyway, Yeah, so the first planet of Corvus. So you'll find Ahsoka Tano. So she also says, "Your bravery will not be forgotten. This is the way."
Yes.
So I thought that was really awesome. Again, just being like, we do say this is the way. This is part of us, but like your whole idea of the Mandalorians is skewed. Like, trust us. We want you as part of us. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Giving him the information as promised, not backstabbing him and setting him on the way. He picks up the child, and he is playing with the new baby, who is playing with the new baby
tadpole. Kind of petting,
as he arrives and gets him back. So we don't see the rest of the Mandalorians. They're pretty much gone at this point.
They took off with the ship
Correct. He arrives to his ship, and it is crudely patched up, and he tells the Mon Calamari that he gave him 1,000 credits, that this is the best you can do. And so he goes into his ship with the child and starts to take off, while we see some 5-legged octopus-type creature climb up the side of the cockpit and try to land on and kill the child.
Yeah.
Din Djarin grabs it the last second and kills it. The child then eats it, and they take off to find Ahsoka, and the episode ends. So my thought was, this creature was planted by this dark creature. Someone's watching them. This is what I thought. I thought this was a dark side creature. And I could be wrong. I didn't look, because the face was shown so glimpse, and then we see them take off the helmets and stuff, and I was like, well, they're in armor, and this person wasn't. I didn't really put two and two together, so it could be the girl.
So my first instinct was it was a girl, and they were just throwing that octopus in because when he had the chowder, the bowl, the small octopus kind of came at him and terrified him. So I thought this was like a funny way of just adding that.
But how did it get onto the ship? Remember, they ate at the inn. The ship's so far away, it just made its way.
Well, I think because they were in the water. It may have just been in there.
See, I just thought it was like it was planted there, like just like you think of like Jango Fett and Zamazel creatures, and like it was some sort of assassination intent. Yeah. So I guess we'll find out if this person does show up again watching them.
Yeah.
But it's interesting.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, exactly. So they've left it open so that everyone can have their own ideas and things like that. So it's great, which makes it more interesting to find out who's this person. What's the story going to go? How's Ahsoka going to look? I'm so excited to see that.
And if Bo-Katan did so well, I'm really expecting Ahsoka to be nailed. Like, as important as Ahsoka is to Star Wars as a whole, like she's up there with Darth Vader and Obi-Wan and all these big classic. Like Ahsoka is, ever since. Well, it started with George Lucas with Clone Wars, but like since that failed, Disney bought them with Rebels, with because they brought other stories, the new season of Clone Wars, and
her voice was in the Rise of Skywalker.
Yes, like so she is a prominent
OG Jedi's with Obi-Wan and all those other Yoda and all those other voices. That she is that important of a character in the universe.
Correct. And I think she was like the jumping off point of like the big surge of like strong female characters in Star Wars. So we had like Princess Leia, we had like
Padme and the
and that was pretty much it. That was like big, like, and they're all like the princess or whatever. But this was like, no, this is like a strong Jedi. Yeah. Oh, and then we have Jyn Erso, and then we have Rey, and we have all of these branching characters that have kind of showed up, Sabine and all that kind of stuff, and all different facets, all different types, not just Jedi.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really cool. But she was like the jumping off point, showing a strong female lead character that everyone gravitated towards and loved, and I've seen her grow through the shows.
Yes.
And so
and she wasn't the damsel in distress. She could save males, females, whoever, children, anything and anyone. So she was like on her own. She didn't need help. Well, everyone needs help, but she could do it on her own as well. Like she wasn't the typical heroine kind of thing.
Absolutely. So overall, excellent episode. Very, very optimistic and excited for the next episode. We're going to see Ahsoka. They're on their way. They know the planet. They have the name. Now, I didn't mention this. Corvus.
Wasn't the ship called? One of the ships was called that, right?
Yes, it was. It was I Googled this earlier, and I was like, this sounds familiar. Like there was a ship called Corvus. I'm trying to remember which one it was now, and I Googled it. I'll have to double check it again. But it was from one of the shows. Let me just double check it. Corvus.
Yeah.
Oh no! It was from Battlefront 2. Versio.
Yes, right.
That's right.
Ship
it was
the Corvus.
That's right. And so that was the big ship, and I was like, a tie-in because again, this is all canon.
The
story out of Versio.
Yeah, we're all
So I thought that was really cool. The name, putting it in. So the Corvus ship was named after a planet called Corvus, and the city was called Caladan on this forest planet of Corvus. So it's a forest planet. So I'm excited to kind of see. I was curious to know if that name was dropped in Rebels. Is that where she was or where they were going? But I don't think so. They didn't mention that, right?
Yeah, I don't believe she mentioned anything about where Corvus. They're going or their plans. which is interesting as well because this will open up some light to that as well.
What
Ahsoka's been up to.
I'm hoping and excited that not only do we get Ahsoka, because they've spoiled, there was leaks out of Ahsoka, and we knew Bo-Katan, but if Sabine shows up, because we have Mandalorians now, we have a live-action Bo-Katan, live-action Ahsoka, there's no reason why we can't have a live-action Sabine, who is now training as a Jedi, but also as a Mandalorian, so she kind of gets both perspectives, and then helping Din Djarin find his way, but then also, like, kind of bridging the gap of, like, well, this is the Mandalorian way, this is the Jedi way, and you have the child, and I think it'd be a really cool bridge, because Ahsoka's going to be here and like, well, this is what Jedis do, and this is what it's about, and she has her own perspective.
She's not a Jedi still,
correct?
So,
and she has her own perspectives on what they.
The Jedi,
yeah, and like she knows they were flawed, and if she's going to try to instruct or figure out a path, and she's already teaching Sabine, she might be like, this is what we expect this to be done, and he might be like, well, he's also like part of my clan, so I kind of want to do this. So Sabine's that perfect bridge that I think will bring some interesting like conversation piece if they decide to include her as well, and I think that'll be an awesome surprise for people to see.
I mean, it would be great, especially if they're thinking of doing an Ahsoka spin-off. Ahsoka and Sabine would be a great team together as a 1-2 punch for a show. The Ezra and Thrawn obviously is going to be
live
action one as well. So they're really going live action and bringing these animated characters from Rebels and Clone Wars to life. Which is great, and can maybe turn into a movie or something can join them together in some sort of future projects as well, or crossovers or things like that, right? Because they really want to do that universe kind of thing where you can kind of cross over and everything. But especially with Marvel and Star Wars being in the same family, they're used to that with the Marvel universe. So they can really expand that into Star Wars universe and kind of build off that as well. They have the experience and the knowledge and the blueprints for it. So I'm excited to see what they can do with it and what their plans are. Obviously, they've only announced a few plans, and that this will always evolve, but very exciting.
It is.
Yeah.
So we know that they're on a trajectory to meet Ahsoka. We've already got Bo-Katan. We know that she's going to pop up. So there's going to be a confrontation between her and Moff Gideon, or some sort of circle where she's working with Din Djarin, Moff Gideon, figuring out, helping each other get the Darksaber and all that kind of stuff.
Boba Fett's still in here somewhere.
And that's what I was going to ask you. What's going to happen with Boba Fett? Because if he comes into the mix, then we have a different Mandalorian character with a completely different perspective as a hardcore bounty hunter who was, a clone of Jango Fett.
That's right.
Jango Fett, who supposedly stole the armor and wasn't a true Mandalorian.
Exactly. So he's not.
How is that going to work? Because he never took off his mask, at least in the movies.
Not in the movie, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, how is he going to be
Clone
perceived?
Wars, he took up. Well, he was young, so he didn't have the mask. I guess.
Correct.
Yes.
There was an episode where he was wearing a helmet, and so I don't know if that was the Mandalorian helmet. But he was wearing a helmet, and he was fighting with the other bounty hunters, right?
Yeah.
But it'd be interesting to see like. Din Djarin is kind of like between a rock and a hard place, and he hears like Bo-Katan and potentially Sabine and like what it means to be like a Mandalorian, but then Boba Fett comes in and it's kind of like the dark side, like the maul on your shoulder with Ezra, and kind of like, okay, we're gonna give you this perspective, and like no, you don't want to be that, like give me my armor, I'll join you, we'll go on the hunt, I'm a bounty hunter like you, and try to steer him off in a different direction, and be this great push and pull between Din Djarin and him having to figure out where he belongs and where his allegiances lie.
Exactly.
I think that'll be an awesome character development point if they bring Boba Fett, or if they're just setting him up for season 3
or something. Yeah. So it all depends on, like you said, little breadcrumbs all over. So it depends on where they want to take season 2 and what they want to leave for season 3 and so on and so forth.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're only 3 episodes in of 8 episodes, so next week will be the halfway point.
Yeah.
And we know that once we hit that halfway point, it's going to start
it's
snowballing and picking up.
Big stuff. Yeah,
so yeah, I'm stoked. Overall, great episode. Lots of little teasers and things thrown in there.
Lots of ways that they can go, so they've left it open. And I like that they don't have definitive answers for everything, and like you and I had different perspectives on different things in this episode, which I love because it brings conversation and ideas and people talking. So I absolutely love it.
Yeah. So overall, great episode. Can't wait for more. But let us know, what did you think of this particular episode called The Heiress? Did you enjoy what you saw? Were you disappointed with anything that they brought to light? Let us know your theories in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Click subscribe, like the video, and as always, folks, stay nerdy.